In every building, there's a master key. One single key that unlocks every door. Sales is the exact same. But most salespeople spend their entire career fumbling with different keys, new scripts, tonality training, body language, objection handling, which work sometimes on some doors. The key ring just keeps getting heavier with all these different tactics, and you never unlock the amount of money you truly want to be earning in sales. So what if, instead of juggling 100 keys, you had one master key? Well, that's what I'm going to hand you, the master key in sales. When you have this master key, you'll make more money in sales, sales will become easier, and sales will become more fun. I know because this master key allowed me to earn over $100,000 a month in commissions as a salesperson without handling objections or spending hours doing follow-up. We're going to cover what is the master key in sales, why this is the master key that explodes sales income, and then the 3 things keeping 90% of closers from ever accessing this master key. By the end of this video, you'll be able to access the master key in sales, which you can use starting today to immediately earn more money. So let's crack in. So, what is the master key? What is the master key for you to be able to be selfish and have everything you want? Be able to open up every type of prospect, be able to handle every type of prospect, be able to close every type of prospect, be able to make crazy amount of money in sales. We're talking about a key that allows you to get what you want. You want to make money. You want to change your life. You want to have a better car, better house, travel, take care of your parents, have the nice watch, whatever it is for you. Ultimately, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing in any way, shape, or form, you want to selfishly have whatever you want to have. The problem is, when you go into your sales calls selfishly looking to get what you want and then trying to have all of these individual keys to make getting what you want actually align with getting the prospect what they want, that is the very reason that you do not have access to the master key, and instead you're having to unlock all of these different doors at the bottom of the barrel. And so you try and do this little technique at the start of the call to get the prospect to open up, build your rapport. You try this little technique here with your body language or your tonality to get them to understand your question. You try this little technique at the end of the call to handle the objections. And when I say technique, I'm talking about individual little keys. Okay, well, I've got that key for this thing, that key for this thing, that key for this thing. And you're like, if you've ever seen an old person, it's not always old people, but often old people, they have this big ring, metal ring where they've got all these keys on. And it's like the keys to their house. And you're like, how many keys do you have in your house? Key for the bathroom window, key for the loft, key for the downstairs cupboard, key for the garage. And they've got this key ring, this ring with 40 keys on. And they carry it around and it clinks and it's heavy and it's, all rusty. And then you see other people that just have a simple key that's the master key that unlocks everything. With all due respect, that's you right now as a salesperson. You've got this big clunky keychain and you're walking around clobbering along with this keychain and still not getting the results that you want. And so why is that? Well, because as I said, you're trying to get the master key to unlock everything, make a shit ton of money, have fun at sales, make sales be easy for you and be able to close anybody and ultimately just be a master salesperson. But your entire approach to doing that is showing up to the sales call in a certain way to get what you want, which is counterintuitive to helping the prospect get what they want or need. And therefore you're having to have all of these additional keys along the way to try and handle all of the issues that you're creating for yourself. You're creating the issue that the prospect doesn't want to open up. And I'll explain why here in a minute. You're creating the issue that the prospects don't want to answer your fucking consequence questions. Oh, well, what happens in 6, 12, 18 months if blank happens? I don't know, I'll be in the same position. You're creating those responses. You're creating the need to follow up. You're creating the need to objection handle. And the simple reason and how to solve that is this is what the master key is. If you want to selfishly, nothing wrong with that, get every single fucking thing that you want in your life, the master key is selflessness. To get selfishly everything you want, the master key is selflessness. When you finally understand that, and I'm going to explain why this is critical in a sales context here in a second, you will find that everything in regards to mastering sales, making a load of money in sales, not having all the laboriousness, follow-up, objection handling, just disappears. And I said it at the start of the video, this allowed me to make over $100,000 a month in commissions. It allowed me to then go on and train top sales teams in the industry, like Alex Hormozi's old gym launch sales team. And now I train this philosophy, how to have the master key instead of all these individual clinking keys on a fucking key ring with 40 different keys, to students or clients, should I say, of the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. Individuals who individually invest at least $12,000 per person to get access to me, to work with me directly, so that they can implement and get access to the master key. They don't want to have a key for this, a key for this, a key for that, a key for that, like an old grandpa or grandma. They want to be an effective, an efficient, and a streamlined person that's like, this is how I show up to the sales call, and we're just going to flow through the whole thing, close the deal, no objection, no follow-up, and make more money. We have students in the mastermind that are making $40,000 a month in commissions, $50,000, $80,000, $100,000 a month from sales, all because of this master key. So now you know what the master key is. It's to be selfless. Remember the two things that we're going to go into in this video now. Number one is, why is that the master key? I'll explain that very clearly for you. It will give you an understanding of human beings at a level that you've never had before. And then you're going to say, well, how do you do this? Why do most salespeople not have access to the master key? Then you can go away. You can immediately implement what I said on your own, start getting more results, make more money, get rid of your objections, get rid of follow-up, make selling easier for you, make selling more fun. Or if you want to work with me directly to really put this on nitric oxide, you could join the mastermind and have me work with you directly. If you want to join, by the way, there's a link below this video. You can check that out straight away. So why is this the master key? Well, what you're doing on a sales call is you're leading someone. That's it. You're leading someone to get to the point of making a decision that they probably already know they need to make, but they're struggling to get over the line. Simple, that's all sales is, leadership. Now, why is the master key to being able to lead a prospect selflessness? Because no one wants to fucking be led by someone that is not viewing them as the most important person in the world. No matter how skilled you are, how competent you are, how competent your offer is and your product or service that you're selling, no matter how great the testimonials are, the immediate mood killer for a prospect or a human being is, you want me to do this thing for you. The moment, the instant that your prospect has those heebie-jeebies, that you want them to close for you, they won't close. And they'll give you all sorts of random things like dumb responses to consequence questions, smokescreen objections, follow-up where, they say, oh, I need to, have a week, and then you're texting them and they just disappear. All of those things happen. That's why this is the master key, for one simple reason. You are not being selfless. You are being selfish. You are not being selfless. The moment that you start being selfless on a sales call, that is the master key. And it's the master key because it is a necessity to the bridge of you being able to do your job as a closer, which is to lead someone. You just can't lead someone if they think that you have your best interests over theirs. Does this make sense? It's very, very fundamental, but salespeople just don't have this clarity because they're so busy being trained on little techniques, the key for objections, the key for get your prospects to open up, the body language key, the tonality key, the old lost man key, whatever the fuck they're teaching you these days. Those are the very things that prevent you getting access to the master key, because all of those things are to try and cover up, like they say, don't put a band-aid on something. The very fact that you're showing up to the call selfishly, creating all of these issues, and then having to band-aid or have individual keys to try and remedy all of these problems. The simple master key to closing anybody that's closable, enjoying sales, and making more money in sales is you can have whatever the fuck you want in life. You can have the watch, have the car, have the house, have the travel, retire your parents, if you be selfless more often. The crazy thing is, to be selfish, you have to be selfless. You will not get anywhere in life being selfish or attempting to be selfish and win the lottery, metaphorically, in life to get everything you want if you don't be selfless in the here and now. Universally, you can be selfish. I want this, I want that. Awesome. The people in the mastermind, the clients we have, they want those things. They want, and some of them already have those things now, the cars, the houses, retiring their wives. Skylar's retired his wife. Pete's bought his dream car. Christian's bought his first apartment. All of the members are building this life selfishly. But the master key to be able to get what you want selfishly is selflessness, because you simply can't lead someone effectively, which is why you then have to have all these other rebuttals and, well, I need the extra key for this thing and the little key to twist this thing and the little key for that. You just can't sell effectively if you're not selfless and you're being selfish. So very simply put, I'm going to end that section with a quote, which you've probably heard before. So just keep it in your back pocket, carry it with you. And it's the quote that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Another way of putting that is, before being led, people must feel understood. They must feel like they're the most important person in the world. People don't care how great your product is or how great your service is or how great your offer is. They don't give a fuck if they do not first feel like you care. And so all of these techniques to make you seem like an expert, which is what the body language, the tonality, the scripted words that are all pre-planned, the whole point of those things is to make you seem like an expert. But none of that fucking matters if you don't come across genuinely as someone that cares. I'm going to say that again so it lands and sticks, because this is what's keeping you from making the money you want in sales. Nobody gives a flying fuck about how much of an expert you are, your product, your service, the business owner, the marketing. They do not care until they know how much you care about them. And if you do not care about them, or you display that you don't care about them, that is why you then, because you don't have access to the master key, have to have all these little keys to fix every bump, objection, I don't mean objections at the end of the call, but objections throughout the whole call that you're creating. The objection to the prospect opening up, the objection to the prospect listening and understanding and responding accurately to your questions, the objection to buying, which is where they give you a literal objection, the objection to responding to your text messages or phone calls when you're following up. All of those things are caused because you are not showing the prospect you care. When you actually are selfless, you can be selfish. This is when you get deep into anything philosophical or spiritual, where people are always looking for things black or white. But if you actually dig into any type of philosophy, what you find is it's both and neither. And that's what all philosophy is. That's why you got yin and yang. The black is inside the white on one side. The white is inside the black on the other side. They're both separate, but they're also both inside of each other. That's what philosophy is. It's pulling from both ends. You can be as selfish as you want. You can have anything you want in life if you can be selfless. Does this make sense? So we've covered what the master key is, selflessness. We've covered why it's so important, because nobody cares how good you are until they know how much you care. And then the final thing we're going to talk about is how do you implement the master key into your sales now, so you can start making more money. I'm going to explain that from the mistakes that salespeople make that stops them being able to access the master key and stops them, which is what the master key is, showing their prospects that they care. Okay, so there's three things. There's three mistakes salespeople make that keeps them from showing their prospects they care. Number one is detail. If you want to show someone you care, when you are having a conversation with them, the level of detail that you want to go into as the listener to their world, to their story, is the first representation of how much you care. If you want to imagine it like a television and you've got 4K, HD, 4K resolution, awesome. If you are willing to watch that movie when it's kind of blurry and it's like, whatever the number would be, 480p, what is that saying about your level of interest in the movie? You're like, well, I don't really care. Like, it's probably a shit movie anyway, so I'll just watch it on 480. The movie is your prospect and their life and what's going on. If you are not committed to turning the dial on the resolution, getting all the colors crystal clear, the sounds, the lag, so like when it's moving on the screen, there's not like it's not choppy. If you're not committed and determined that you can see that movie crystal clear, even if you had to zoom in on things, wow, look at the colors on that. If you're not that bothered about that, that is simply showing your prospect you don't care. And so how does this look on a sales call? Prospect says something. Most salespeople are trained enough these days that they'll dig one layer deep. So prospect says, I had an argument with my mum. Okay, they might say, what did you argue about? One layer of detail. A master closer, and master who has the master key, who has access to the master key, is showing the prospect they care, will go 6 or 7 layers deep into the detail until they know which room they had the argument in. What was the energy of both people during the argument? Where did the argument end up? As in, did it end in, a big explosion, someone threw something across the room, whatever. All of these layers of detail. And so when I train closers, we do role plays. This week is actually role play week. We've been doing a role play every single week. We do role plays, we do call reviews. When I train closers, one of the first things I teach them is the technique of how to go deeper into the details. But remember, we're not doing it because it's a tactic. We're doing it because it's genuinely, even if I'm fucking role-playing, I care. I genuinely want to see the whole movie in full details. I want to know precisely, specifically, exactly what is going on in this person's world. When you can show someone by going deep into the details and not missing a beat that you care so much about understanding all the details in their life, they start to feel, holy shit, this person cares. Now I say start to feel, because if you don't do the next two that I'm going to give you, they still won't feel like you fully care. And it's all or nothing. Think about it like this. At the end of the call, you're asking that person to entrust their future with you, their future in regards to solving whatever the problem or challenge is, the industry that they're on the call for. You're also asking them for their credit card. If there's a part of them that's like, I kind of feel like this person has good intentions, but there's a part of me that's unsure. That's a no. It's not a maybe. It's a no. I'm not 100% certain this person truly is being selfless and caring enough about me. So you need to know these other two, but I'm going to finish up this first one first. So what you need to learn is to be able to understand what questions you would ask a prospect based on the situation they're telling you. And that's not going to come from a script, because a script is telling you that every person's life or worldview challenges that they're currently telling you can be explored to the same degree of detail with the same number of questions in the same order. That's bullshit. Everybody is having a different life, and some person's life, you might need to ask 3 questions to understand, okay, there's a roof here, there's walls here, there's windows there. Now I understand the room. Another person, they might have furniture everywhere, and you're like, okay, well, what was there? What was here? What was there? And you have to understand, you have to ask more questions. You're never going to be able to dig into the details of someone's life to be able to show them that you care, to be able to have the master key to sales, which is selflessness, which allows you to selfishly get whatever you want in life if you're reading from a script, because you're never going to have access to the ability to go into whatever detail you need as and when you need it, individualized for each different prospect. So I teach this to salespeople. I teach it to them by showing them in real time on call reviews or role plays. Okay, well, the prospect said this. Do you precisely know what that looks like? And the closer would be like, well, not exactly. Not exactly is a no. And it's not just a no for you as the closer. As I'm saying, it's a no that the prospect feels like you care to know all the details. Now, obviously, you have to finesse this so you're not asking details about stuff that's irrelevant. That is something that we train inside the mastermind. I can't train all of that on a YouTube video, but I do have a lot of sales role plays. If you haven't seen those, check those out. There's a whole playlist. But if you really want to master this, you need me to work with you directly to show you for your offer, your types of avatars, the things that you personally would be missing. Let me give you customized feedback for how you can dig into all the details. So let's wrap up this first one. Does this make sense? You cannot show someone you care if when they're telling you their story and there's kind of some missing details or missing pieces, you're not interested in filling in the blanks. Is this clear? You have to be able to go into all the details, and you're only going to be able to do that by learning to ditch the script. So let's get into the second one. So, in fact, before we get into the second one, I had an analogy that I wanted to use to explain that. So, and this is an interesting analogy because people have sometimes said that one of the frames that you can imagine if you're a master closer, it's kind of the daddy frame. Like daddy's here, daddy's home, daddy's going to take care of you. Funny, I get it, but it's a very powerful frame. And if you see me on sales role plays, in certain cases, that's the frame that I'm coming into the call with. And so the analogy that I had for you was, imagine if there's a dad who has his son and he takes his son to play the Friday night football match. Football, American football, football, soccer, if it's someone from the UK or Europe listening to this. And the son's out there kicking the ball, throwing the ball, depends which sport we're playing here. And the dad is on his phone. He's looking on his phone, typing some things, sending some emails, doing some things. And then through the game, the son looks up and he checks on the sidelines to see if the dad's looking. And he can see many times the dad's not watching. What is that going to make the son feel? It's going to make the son feel exactly the same way that you make your prospects feel when you are metaphorically looking down at the phone, not actually trying to watch everything. Oh, cool. My son passed the ball here and then that person passed it back to him and then wow, he went on a sprint here. Amazing. The pride that you have in someone else, your prospect, should be almost identical to the pride that a parent would have watching their child perform. I want to see everything. I don't want to miss a beat. Even if the parent did have to look down and respond to something super urgent, and then there was a timeout or there was a quarter time or a half time, the first thing the dad would say is, son, I'm so sorry. I had to answer an email. What happened, 10 minutes in when you passed the ball? I missed it. And the dad would be so interested. And this is all it is. Selflessness is interest in other people more than you're interested in your own shit that's going on in your own life. And the reason that you're so, and this is the irony, I said all of this is a loop. The reason that you're so interested in your own life is because your life sucks. You're poor. You don't have the life you want to live. You're still stuck in your granny's basement, whatever it is. And so because you're so focused on your shit life, you'll never get out of your shit life until you start being able to compartmentalize that, put it to the side, and focus all your effort and intention on somebody else. So it's just like the dad. You've got to imagine that when you're on the Zoom call, or audio only maybe, you are interested in all the details, seeing the whole game, every pass, every goal, every cheer, every block, every tackle. You want to see everything because that is simply showing someone you care, okay? So that's the first thing. And the reason I had to bring up the analogy is because I'm going to bring it up again for part 2. So the second thing that salespeople do that keeps them from accessing the master key to sales is having an agenda, okay? So what you want to have is a lack of an agenda. Now, what this would look like, I'm just going to jump straight to the analogy here because it was very simple to understand with the analogy. This is now the dad that's on the sidelines and the son's playing the sport, and the dad, like a backseat driver, is telling the son what to do. Pass the ball to him. Oh, run over there. Get this thing over there. And then the worst bit is at the end of the game, let's say the son won. The dad high-fives his son and says, "We won." It's like, we? What do you mean, we? And that, if the son grows up and starts to remember some of these things, he would look back and he would have a bad opinion of his parent. He'd look back and think, yeah, they cared more about being part of the winning rather than actually just letting me be the winner, letting me hold my own trophy. And this is what your prospects feel. When you're on a sales call and you have an agenda and you're trying to navigate the conversation and push it to where you want it to go, prospects feel that you don't care. They feel that you don't care because just like the dad that's on the sidelines, that's telling the son what to do so that they can have part of the glory, that is not true selflessness. That is actually very high level of selfishness. Going off on a little tangent here about understanding people, which is what we teach very deeply inside the mastermind, because to master sales, you have to understand humans, not scripts. Think of it like this, and this will make total sense to you. When you have a parent that is on the sidelines trying to live venerably through their children, why is that? It's because there's a part of the parent that is not whole, that is not complete, that is not fulfilled, that is not happy. Probably because when they were a child, their parents didn't celebrate their wins, didn't watch their games, didn't want to get involved. And then now there's a part of them that feels broken. There's a part of them that feels missing. Now you're probably thinking, how's this connected to my sales call? It all connects unconsciously. The prospect isn't consciously looking at you as the closer and thinking, oh my God, this salesperson is wanting to navigate the conversation and push me where to go. It's because they're not a complete person. Of course, they're not consciously thinking that. But a lot of what's going on a sales call, which is why you get smoke screen objections or people that ghost you or just hang up the fucking phone when you drop the price and you're like, what the heck? They just cut out the Zoom call. The main reason that people do that is because they have a feeling, a gut feeling, a bad gut feeling, an intuition, and they don't know where it's coming from, why it's there, and they certainly don't know how to articulate it. But they still have that bad feeling. And this is the second bad feeling that you're going to give your prospects, specifically in relation to they view you as not caring enough about them. They don't view you as caring enough about them when you want to get involved in navigating the conversation where you want it to go. Oh, I don't want them to talk about that. Let me ask questions over here. And you ask these closed-ended questions or very specific questions that you want the prospect to talk about this thing. Well, what happened here? As opposed to a question that might just be like, well, how did that go? And there's open-ended questions and there's closed-ended. I talk a lot about this in the sales role plays. If you haven't seen them, check them out. If you've checked out enough of them, the question is, what are you still doing sitting on the sidelines? You know, to get to the next level, you need to work with me directly. So just click the link below the video and join. Anyway, back to what we're training. So the second thing is very simply, your prospects feel that you are not putting them before you when you want to get involved in their game. They are player one. It's their hero's journey. Your job is to actually sit back and be a vessel for them. Allow them to guide you through the conversation. And you're just kind of like, and this is the mastery about it, is of course you kind of need to have these little kind of barriers. It's like when you go bowling, you put the two rails up so the kid doesn't throw the ball into the gutter, I think it's called alley or gutter. But you still let the child play their game. You put the barriers up so that it's kind of going to go a little bit in the direction you want, but it's their game. It'd be shit if you had a parent and they're like, hey, let me teach you how to bowl. And the parent puts up the two guardrails, and then literally the parent puts their hand in the bowling ball and then just tells the son to like, oh, just put your hand on the side. We'll do it together. And now the parent is rolling the bowling ball and the kid's just got his hand like limp on the side of the bowling ball. And the kid's like, I didn't really do anything here. You're basically doing the bowling for me. Now, as I said, as that kid grows up and looks back on his parents, he's going to be like, yeah, you know what? My parents were pretty selfish. They wanted to play my bowling games for me. Now, obviously, this is nuanced because there's, well, what if the child's too small to hold the ball? Do you have to lift the ball up? It's all about finessing these things. So you've got to have the IQ to be able to hear what I'm saying and finesse it contextually. But in principle, Does this second one make sense? You cannot show someone that you are being selfless if you want to play their hero's journey for them. And I see this all the time with salespeople. And I briefly touched on it. And so, this might hurt a little bit, what I'm about to say. But the main reason that most salespeople make this mistake is the same thing that I said about the parent. They are partly broken inside. And that is not me saying, oh, be a victim, you're broken. It's to say that is where you're at right now. You try to control everything because there's parts of you from your childhood or whatever that have made you into a control freak. OCD, wanting to make everything go exactly the way you want it to go. And there's nothing wrong with the desire for perfection. There's nothing wrong with the desire for excellence. The problem is, true excellence is going to come from you being able to train to let go. True excellence in terms of how much money you're going to make is definitely going to come from you being able to train to let go. That is why everything I've just explained, the fundamental big part of the Unicorn Closer Mastermind is internal training. Because if you have these parts of you that are, sorry to keep using the word broken, but damaged, you have to fix those. Until you fucking fix them, you are going to keep projecting your unresolved issues onto your prospects by way of your sales process, how you ask these manipulative, controlling questions and try and box the prospect into a corner because of your own issues. That is why you have to fix these things. You have to go through internal training to actually become someone that is dialing in your life, organizing your life, locking in your life, because when you are actually dialing in your life, you can actually let go. That's another one of those ironies. It's like, if you want to let go, you actually have to take more control, but more control of the right things that you are in control of your life. You don't get control by trying to control the prospect. That is actually the opposite of control. It's and I said this before, subconsciously, you're showing the prospect, I'm a weak person. I'm a broken person that is trying to control you because I'm not complete on the inside. Holy shit, we went pretty deep there. So let's zoom out a little bit. Let's go into the third one. I'm not going to harp on some deep, inner wounded child therapy. We'll touch on that if you join the mastermind. All right, so the third and final one, and this one's probably the weirdest one, is, and might be politically incorrect for me to say this, but it is just human behavior. The third reason that salespeople do not have the ability to demonstrate to their prospects selflessness, putting them first, you ready for this one, is that they don't actually hold high standards. I'll give you a very simple example. It's not one that salespeople use often these days, but it will just open us up to the conversation. Prospects, you tell the prospect the price is 10K. Prospect says, oof, it's a lot of money. Closer turns around and says, well, what if we could do it for 7? You might think that that's being selfless. Oh, I'm trying to help the prospect. I'm trying to lower the price to help them in. That is actually selfish. And this is another one of where these, counterintuitive juxtapositions happen. The most selfish thing you can do is to downplay the high standards that someone should be living up to, because what you're actually doing is you're telling them this is as good as you can be. And that's a big thing that we teach in the Unicorn Closer Mastermind is we have very high standards of excellence, because that is actually us being selfless and saying, you can be this. You can fucking be the best if you do these things. We are not going to downgrade what it takes to be excellent because you're not willing or capable to step up. And there are some people that join the Unicorn Closer Mastermind and they can't handle it. Well, what do you want us to do? Downgrade our standards? That would be us being selfish. And think about it. If we actually downgraded our standards so people stayed in the mastermind and carried on making the investment, of course that's fucking selfish. We're not doing that. We're like, no, we are going to set the ground of this is what it will take you to be fantastic, to be phenomenal at sales and at life as a leader. You rise up or you don't. You step up or you don't. We are not downgrading the standards. And so where this shows up on sales calls is all sorts of things like offering guarantees. Prospect says, Mr. Closer, is there a guarantee? Well, yeah, we do guarantee that, if you don't get the results that you're looking for in 30 days, we'll give you your money back. You might think that is helping your prospect, serving your prospect, being selfless. I'm trying to help them, reduce their fear, reduce their risk. No, what you're training them to be is weak pussies, people that just can't face fear and face risk without a fake guarantee. That's the reality. Jordan Peterson, I learned this from Jordan Peterson. He says, if you have someone with a phobia, let's say a phobia of spiders, the worst thing you can do is try and tell the person, well, the spider's more afraid of you than you are of it, because now all you're doing is you're playing into that human's feeling of being incompetent and inferior and weak. It's like, yeah, you are a weak, feeble person, but the spider's much smaller than you. as opposed to what he teaches you should do. And this is why you need to understand humans and psychology to be a master closer, not scripts. He says, what you should be saying is, yeah, that's a spider and it could kill you. It's poisonous, it's dangerous, but you are more powerful, more courageous, more competent than you even realize. Can you see the difference in the framing? One framing is, yeah, you're pathetic and feeble, and therefore you absolutely should be scared shitless. That's selfish. That's you not having the strength of character for you to hold the line for someone and say, no, you need to step up. Selfless is when you actually downplay the bar and you say, well, the bar was here, but we'll just bring it down for you. Sorry, that's selfish. Does this make sense? So you have to understand that to be a salesperson that is selfless, you have to have all three of these things, because you could have a very detailed conversation with your prospect. But then, even though you're going all the way into all the details and you understand their whole worldview, you're trying to navigate and have an agenda over the conversation. Or you could have the first two. You could have super high details. You could have no agenda. But when it comes to a person having to rise up to the higher standards, you, as a human being, don't have the standards within inside yourself, and therefore you can't hold the frame. It's called frame control in sales. And so therefore you have to start lowering the standards to meet the person where they're at. This is the crazy thing. Part of being selfless is to not meet people where they're at. No, you're here, I'm here. You're here, we're here. You step up. That's what we do inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. That's why we don't have a sales call. It's not like, yeah, you're here and you're afraid of investing, so let us take a 45-minute call to get you over the line. No. Because all that would be doing would be us being selfish and saying to you, you're not competent enough to make a fucking adult decision on your own. That's why we don't do it. And that's why we get the results that we get inside the mastermind, because every motherfucker inside that mastermind has been an adult. They've stepped up to the plate on their own, and they only were able to do that, if I say so myself, because we, my business partner and mentor, and I, were selfless. We didn't put ourselves first. We'd make way more money in the mastermind if we put a sales team on there. But what we'd be doing is making weaker closers, weaker people. And that's not what we're about. We're about you becoming the best version of yourself. And there are fundamental principles to doing that. Caring enough about someone to want to know all the details if you're in a conversation with them. Number two, not having an agenda, not trying to make them talk about the things you want to talk about that would be in your best interest. And the third and final thing to being selfless is, this is the bar. You rise up or you don't. We are not lowering the bar for you. And that is what a lot of salespeople do by way of things like guarantees or, trying to, like another one, prospect says, well, yes, I haven't done anything for 3 years, but that's why I'm on a call today. And the closer's like, yeah, great, well done. You've booked in a call. What do you mean booked in a call? That doesn't mean anything. Okay, you've turned up to a call, but are you actually going to take action? Notice the difference. It's not how I would phrase it on a sales call, but the frame control is part of being selfless. So many closers can't get frame control because they haven't yet stepped into this identity, this master key of selflessness. So that is it. Quite a heated and deep topic. The master key to sales is not your tactics. It's not your objection handling training. It's not your how to get the prospect to open up training, rapport building. It's not your Zoom background. It's not your tonality. It's not your perfectly scripted questions in the right order. It's none of that. It's not your body language. The master key to sales is to become someone that is able to selfishly get whatever you want in life, the life of your dreams, by being able to consistently be selfless. And to be selfless, you have to stop doing these three selfish things. Not caring enough about someone's story that you want all the details, and you're just like, yeah, whatever, I'll just miss out a few details. I don't really know what's going on. Not being selfish to have an agenda, trying to control the call and get the outcome you want and box the prospect into where you want to box them in. And the third and final thing of being selfish is actually not holding a standard and holding the line and saying to someone, if you can't jump up to this standard, we're not a fit. Any deviation from any of those three things is selfish, and you will never actually selfishly get to have what you want in life. So if you want to live the life of your dreams as a salesperson, that is the master key. Now, if you want help to implement those three things, how specifically do I get more details on a sales call? I want to do this. You might be there thinking, okay, I'm ready to commit to being selfless. I'm not entirely sure How do I do that? I need more details. I need to ask a few more questions. But if you want to actually take this to the next level and get me to show you what that looks like on your calls, on your offers, cool reviews for you, role plays of you, getting around other closers that are all doing this, there is a link below this video to join the Unicorn Closer Mastermind, where I'll teach you precisely how to be selfless by getting into all the details of someone's life. Second thing I'll teach you is how to navigate a discovery with no agenda, which literally means no script. How do you have a real, authentic, no bullshit conversation with no agenda? Agenda, script, same thing, different words. Agenda is a diary, which is tomorrow at this time, I'm going to do this thing. Same as a script. After this question, I'm going to ask this question. That's an agenda. That's what an agenda means. So you can't not have an agenda by having pre-planned questions. The whole fact it's pre-planned means you have an agenda, which means you are being selfish, which means you're not going to have the master key to sales. You're never going to make a load of money in sales. And the third and final thing that I can teach you, and the number one way I can teach it to you is by living it, is to step up to the standards of the Unicorn Closer Mastermind and join. And then once you're on the inside, you are going to see to maintain those standards, because we are not dropping our standards to meet you where you're at. You step up to our level or stay where you're at. But if you're not happy with where you're at, if you're not fulfilled financially, in your level of skill set, mastery, your ability to actually help people, your prospects, then you need to step up. Stop waiting for the bar to come down and join a cheap program. It's not going to fix your problem. You need to rise up. So if you want to live out those three things, click the link below this video, join the Unicorn Closer Mastermind, and I look forward to handing you the master key to sales.